I present to you today the result of 15 years of development, the very pinnacle of sim racing physics. This is iRacing. I've always had this love-hate relationship with iRacing, and it's got nothing to do with the hula hoop bonnets. I love that it runs well on a PC from 2018, but the graphics are from 2008. It's got all the race cars, but I just want some road cars. There are over 100 tracks, but you just get to race on one every couple of days, if that. For every positive this game has, I can find a negative. But times change, and very slowly, so does iRacing. Since I last took a look at the game, iRacing has added a jacked up damage model, and better yet, they've invented the very concept of weather. And if that wasn't enough, I now have a completely new wheel using completely different tech. What all this means is, well, I need to take another look at iRacing. So I ponied up the cash. That is, after all, the first rule of iRacing. $13 per month or $110 per year later, and I can experience the second rule of iRacing. Updates. It's only 19 gigabyte of them. It'll be done in a flash. Won't even notice it's only using 1/80th of my connection speed. Before you even get into a race though, you need to figure out where the racing is between the ads. You see, when you finally do all the signing up, make all the payments and get into the actual UI, you're met with this screen, which is in dark mode because I'm not a heathen. Almost everything on this page is an ad of some sort, because you can never spend enough money in iRacing, but at least they show you some stats in the top right. Clicking off this though onto a profile, here you can see some stats telling you just how many races you've lost, and if you want to feel even worse, the next menu shows you all the content you've wasted money on over the years. Because of course, even though you pay just to play the game, you still need to buy the cars and the tracks individually beyond the handful you get for free in the rookie classes. Further down, we've got the community-hosted league, servers, a time attack mode that's used by exactly nobody. The only thing remotely interesting to me here is the AI single-player option, which you can see put to test in my AI face-off video I'll link to down below. The two at the bottom surely need no explanation. The store is a store. You can buy stuff. Paint is where you can very slightly alter the look of your car, but don't expect Forza or GT levels of customization here. Boring bits out of the way then, let's circle back to that official option I skipped earlier. Here is where the real racing is. This is a bit you pay for. The important bit here is the filters at the top, because right now it's just showing everything, and if you're a new player, then there's almost nothing here that you can actually enter. So you want to click that filter option in the top right and get to work. First of all, I'm only interested in racing, and even then, only if it's on road tracks. The car type I'm not too fussed about, but a fixed setup is a must. I don't have time to be a race engineer, I just want to jump in and drive. Now the license section I can ignore because I just check over here to see all the races I'm allowed to enter. The final option is to filter out any unofficial events that don't count for anything anyway. And here is what I'm left with, having only a license one better than the rookies. Even though throughout the years I've bought a lot of content, half those races still require I hand over credit card details to enter. Worse still, the two things I really want to race, the MX-5 and 8.6s, aren't even available. It's a good thing then that I filmed this section after I'd done all my racing. Here's how that went. Now that's the iRacing I remember. Spinning wildly with no idea why. But let's give it a chance because iRacing has always been super spin happy on cold tires. Within a lap and a half, it's still like hitting patches of ice, but it now feels like my steering wheel is connected to the rest of the car, so that's nice. And it doesn't make me overconfident, not at all. Now if I were a competent YouTuber, here's where I'd show you some race highlights. But I'm not a competent YouTuber and I didn't record that race, so here's the stat screen. It was a middle of the pack finish after some first lap damage, which wasn't my fault. Par for the course for the rookies, really. Next up though was something I just couldn't resist. A hot hatch at the Nerdburg ring. The reality though was like driving a boat on train tracks. In Gran Turismo you can take a street car, pump up the horsepower and stick some racing slicks on it. It's a rocket ship, but it always feels like it's plotting your death. I thought that was a Gran Turismo physics kind of thing, but here we are in iRacing. None of that really matters though, because come race time, I only made it a few meters. Yep, that's been my experience so far. But again, rookies, right? Well, technically Class D, so above rookies, but still, rookies. I carried on anyway, but with my car down on power, it was a lonely race till last. Next up was the V at WInton. I spent a few minutes wondering where this track goes, but before I learnt that, the race broke out. Having spent my 2 qualifying laps lawn mowing, I started last. Right off the line though, second to last is not up for the fight and gives me the position, so good start I guess. That's another position, and another, and another. Like any racing sim online, when starting out you really do well just by staying on the track. At this point I've been shadowing these two since lap 1, just trying to remember my braking points and not take anybody out. But then all of a sudden it kicks off and I have a run on the number 1 car. Can't make it stick though, and he gets the position back on the inside. But this is woken me up and I want to race now. I stick it up the inside on turn 1, hoping he's just going to back out, but boom, race over. At first I'm really disappointed because I gave him ample room, didn't I? Well, it turns out I did, and he gave me room. But iRacing was just being a jerk. Isn't iRacing meant to be famous for its netcode? Not to let my newfound WInton Raceway expertise go to waste, I jumped in the 8.6. I even got a single lap of practice in, so bonus. Having clearly mastered WInton, I put in a qualifying time that put me second to last on the grid. Man, I despise these rolling starts. But hey, this one's working for me. Got a few cars here. Then I was thinking about taking this guy on the inside, but cold tires with a lack of experience, I thought better of it. Got a couple of places anyway though, due to the usual early race antics. After that I decided to settle in behind the blue guy and just do some laps. I need experience more than anything now. He wasn't the quickest guy out there and I often got checked up and had to back out of it when he tripped over the car in front. This all amounted to the car behind taking my position. For a few seconds anyway, before he decides my bonnet is a better place to be. I'm actually trying to stay out of trouble, but trouble has no problems at all finding me. And it's not like I'm getting any better. I'm mugged again after totally botching this corner, having 2 stabs at it and giving the guy behind a great run. But honestly, I thought I had him here. I just stick to the inside, but there's no way he's taking me on the outside. But I was just too cautious and went up onto the curve to give him space, which just made me even slower. And then, well, yeah, that one's on me. Again, it's all down to experience. You need more than 1 or 2 races around a track to know how to tackle it. It came as no great surprise when I got attacked again. I didn't even try to defend this one. He makes a nice pass on the inside using more curve than I thought you could take here, but that makes him slow on exit. I think it's on for a second, but he chops across and I gotta back out of it or else we're both in the wall. Not long after that though, there's something going on up ahead. The blue 86 tags someone around and puts the chop back on the red car, which just seems to bail out completely. Now it's just me and the crazy blue guy. But for some reason this guy's really slow. He came from the front of the pack, he should be faster. But through some sections, he's really holding me up. I'm having to brake far earlier than I get pinched on the exits. It's so bad that red guy's coming straight back into the picture. By the final lap I was still stuck behind blue guy who picked up the pace quite a bit, and I picked up a penalty too for some reason, which really put paid to the attacking I wanted to do. I ended up finishing exactly in the middle of the pack. And what do you know, next up is WInton again. Because at that point in time, iRacing wasn't offering up much else. But this time it's a car I've never even heard of before, the Ray Formula. I had no clue at all what to expect from this car. Honestly, I thought it was a Formula Ford. But man, this car's a blast. It's a little understeery, sure, but what do you expect from a front-wheel drive car? You get so used to just throwing it around, it makes you feel like you can't even spin it. Makes you feel like you can't spin it. Come the race, I'm starting last again because I just can't seem to do a single lap in qualifying without flying off the track, but it's massive fun. I ham back through the first turn expecting chaos, and there is a little, but not as much as I expected. Again, a few places and another one into the next turn. I always marvel at how slow everybody is on cold tires. Just watch this gap up ahead disappear as the blue guy exits the picture and the car behind takes an alternative racing line in the rear view. It's all going pretty well for an opening lap, and the two ahead look vulnerable too. I take a wide line in here hoping to be fast out, and it works. Till it doesn't. What happened there? I shifted and the guy just took off. I guess there are tricks to this car that I don't have a clue about. I settle in and follow this guy for a while, constantly catching but then having to back off. But then got to close that gap to the blue guy now. After some, let's say, exploratory lines followed up by some rookie mistakes, I closed right up to blue guy, then got left in his dust, then closed right back up again. It's been a good race so far and I'm keeping the leaders in sight. It's a great feeling for the first time out in a car. I'm for sure faster than the car in front at this point, but catching and passing it all. I can get frustratingly close at points, then almost just throw it all away. But I hold it all together and think I finally have the position when he slides wide and has the inside for the next turn, and I can't do much but slot it behind again. Till this turn where again we go side by side for a little drag race. But again, he's not giving up the inside line. This time though, he's gone a little too far and there's no stopping me taking the place. Life's great now. I've come through the pack from last and I'm closing down the leaders in the final laps. But then this guy says I'm in third, but the slow car ahead is the leader? I'm thinking about that when... Well, that was a nice race. I ended up spending a small epoch in the pits and finished a bitter ninth. That sucked. After that disappointment, I was off to Oschersleben for another super boring rolling start. Oh my god, this just keeps dragging on forever. I know some people like this. It's all about the full weekend stimulation, that full experience. I get it, but still. Thankfully, the race broke out before I fell asleep and lasted about half as long as the rolling start. So from there I jumped over into the MX-5s, this time actually recording the race. Still starting from the back though. WInton now looks a lot like Snetterton and I get the jump on the number 2 car right off the line. Halfway around the first lap and it's the number 3 car that I'm now squeezing by. No idea what position I'm in, but it's always fun on the first lap with cold tyres. Until I get overconfident again and do something stupid. That's the story of my every single race right there. It's a real lonely chase back up to the field till I encounter these two who look to have just as much experience driving here as I do. I get stuck behind a little while before sending it on turn 1. I thought he was going to sweep back past as I'm fighting for control on the outside, but it's all good. Long gap to the next guy though. I managed to close the gap up quite a bit, enough to get a front row shot of this guy binning it on the final turn. I felt like I was just beginning to understand the car on the track as a checkered flag fell. In the end, I finished only one place better than I started. I was in the mood though, so next time out I was going to go for the win. iRacing though, it had other ideas. So the next day, and with all the updates later, I was back with my usual rubbish qualifying spot. That's one guy taken off the line and I'm thinking about going on the inside on the number 7. Well, okay, that was easy. Everyone braking super early. Now it's getting all a little tight and what's this guy doing? Well, I think I can keep going. This guy on the right is going really slow into that corner, but at least he makes it cleanly, which is more than can be said for car 4 here. That's 2 places made back with whatever damage I have. Let's try for more. Well, this one has disaster written all over it. And yeah, I saw that coming. I really should have slowed down more. But hey, what's some more damage really gonna do? Well, as if to answer that question, the blue car comes blasting past, letting me know my straight line speed is way down. With a better run out, and in the slip I'm still losing hand over fist. By the turn I have a little look, but nothing is on. But another one bites the dust and that moves me up a position anyway. This is a good time to talk damage in iRacing. Most damage is stuff you need to pit for, like a missing wheel or really bent suspension. But you also get aero and engine damage too, which you can really see here. I am faster in corners, but with my damage, the best I can do is just keep overall pace with the car in front. It's not long before we're both stuck behind that red car, and it's wandering all over the track. I'm a lot quicker through this corner, and I think car 4 is staying wide, but he cuts back and brakes before I do. I give him a bump which I thought would take us all out, but it only cost me while the red car just drove off the track anyway. And that's basically all the action for a few laps till car number 4 almost binned it up ahead and gave me his place. Somehow after all that crashing I was up to 4th. For a little while. Just take a look at how far back he comes from to bump me out of the position and move me back to 5th. I've got no idea how many accidents I've had in this race so far. Eventually they roll the checkered flag out to end my miserable race. It felt like I had unfinished business here. I had to go again, but this time I was going to make sure I qualified with at least one of my laps counting. That got me 2nd on the grid. Maybe this time I can have a clean race? I completely failed to make any positions up off the line. Into the first few corners we are both giving each other some serious respect and room. So far so good. And looking in the rear view, where did everybody else go? It's just me and the number 9 car now, which literally only lasted till the next corner when old mate bins it on cold tyres and I'm left all alone at the front. This is why I wasn't too fussed about qualifying before. It's so much more fun racing door to door while fighting for position in a pack. But what I'm left now with is just lap after lap of tedium. Well, that and this little slide across the grass. But then more tedium. But you know, it was really nice to get the win because the next day I had to travel to Suzuka for a live action Wreckfest demonstration. But after that, and after more updates, I was looking for something a little different, and I haven't raced that BMW before, so the M4 at Road Atlanta it is. Oh god, it's one of those starts. Eventually, after a small eternity, the race was on. Instantly, I was getting squeezed by a Mercedes that was carrying a stealth traffic cone around the track for some reason. I tried to forget about that and sat right in behind. Someone bit the wall hard heading down through the curves, and this being my first race in this car, I was scared of doing the same. My plan was to just take it easy and learn the ropes. Well, learn the ropes and dodge traffic cones. I did this for quite a while, just sat behind learning how the car reacted to the track. That didn't turn out to be the most useful strategy though. When I caught back up to the pack again, it was all happening. Cars were braking really early, going up the inside, cars deciding not to obey gravity or even electromagnetism. Coming through the final turn and Porsche, and I am Australian, I'm going to say Porsche and not Porsche, really holds me up and gives the car behind all the invitation it needs. But somehow I held it around the outside without ending up in the dirt and kept the position. Another car loses it out of the left-hander and the 23 Porsche is starting to fight. Lots of fun still to be had in this one. That Porsche I was chasing has just scampered off past the AMG, which all of a sudden makes out like Houdini. I have no idea where he is, so I decide I'm just ignoring that grey ghost. That gives me a great run back onto the tail of that road-blocking car 23. Now here's where I just don't know what's going on. The Porsche is going way too slow and the AMG just smacks him back to Wednesday. It's all good for me though. An age later I catch this green guy, but I just can't quite figure out how to pass him. He's all over the track, causing me to back off in odd places, and all the while the dot in my rear view is growing and growing. And that's really annoying. You know, I've noticed that usually with these penalties I can just coast a little bit in the corners and serve the penalty that way, but this one just keeps going up. What's with that? On the straight I back right out of it, giving up well more than the 1.4 it's asking for, but iRacing says, nah, that's 40 seconds for that 5mm you were over the curve. I contemplated on the penalty for a little bit, then decided to act like a child. One of the big things that really made me want to take another look at iRacing was the rain update. I love the idea of racing in the wet in changeable conditions, but so far the idea of rain in iRacing has been just that, an idea. I have tried all sorts of series and I've just never seen it. This is somewhat due to the fact that the Rookies events have no rain according to iRacing, but rain in general seems to be rare, at least in the weeks I was racing. So when I saw a series listed as Rainmaster, well, how could I resist? And you know, first impressions are pretty solid. Break it down though and things fall apart, but I'll save that for a complete rain analysis video down the line. For now it's race time and I'm happy enough with a full grid ahead of me and the frame rate still being north of 60. Things are looking great at turn 1. It's the usual slow cars on cold tyres and it feels like I might be gaining some places this race. That optimism doesn't last very long though. It's just a few turns later and I'm spinning like I never did in practice. I am at the back struggling and it feels like I'm going walking pace, but I'm still getting spins like this where I was on the opposite lock before the spin even got going. There was literally no way of saving it if the spin gets worse and worse when you crank on the opposite lock. I'm driving on absolute eggshells, completely afraid to do anything because I simply can't feel what the car is doing. Somehow I've managed to catch those two in front. They must be struggling as badly as I am. This isn't racing for me though. I feel more like I'm performing some kind of work. Here's exactly what I mean. That guy in front was straight then, all of a sudden he's just spinning off backwards. And I know in conditions like this that can be crazy in real life. But in real life you have all of your senses working and all of the feedback of a real car. You can feel what the car is doing. And this is something I was looking to praise in this new update, the wheel feel. Because I used to use a Thrustmaster TGT. With its vibration and super strength for a belt-driven wheel, it felt excellent in Gran Turismo, but in iRacing, it didn't really matter what I tried. I could never feel when the car was on the edge of grip and about to slide, so I could never really push and show any true pace. But whether it's my new Logitech G Pro wheel or just some new physics since my last test of iRacing, I can feel most cars are a lot better now. I suspect it's down to running settings provided by Logitech themselves and iRacing actually supporting all the features of the wheel like True Force. It makes a difference. Not in this car in the rain though. I started 10th and finished 10th, but I would love to test out the rain again in lots of different cars. After that I wanted to jump back into a car that felt really good, and the best one so far has been the Ray. I started towards the back of the pack again at Lime Rock and was pretty sure I could hold my own. Off the grid though I lost one position but then gained 2 in the first turn. It was looking like I was well faster than those ahead, but you know, you'd think I'd be more cautious by now, but no. It really felt like I was just robbed of a possible victory, so I had to come back for one final round. This time though I got a half decent quali lap in, enough for second on the grid. If I screw this one up, there's no excuses anymore. Thankfully, I get through turn 1 with no issues at all. I'm really not looking to pass yet. I just want to sit in behind and pile on the pressure, make him crash if I can. He put in a faster qualifying time than I did, but as usual, he's slow on cold tyres and pressing him now might just pay off. By the end of the second lap, he has soaked up all that pressure and made himself a nice little gap. But he seems to pull a bit of Alonso into the first turn and I'm lucky I didn't take us both out there. After that little scare, I'm forced to just follow for a while, but this time our tyres are warm and I know I can live with him on pure pace, so I just send it. I almost lost it on the curve getting the move done, but once I got straight I squeezed him a little more than I would have liked. But the move is done now and the race is still young. I'm much more comfortable chasing than leading, but now it's just all about forgetting the guy behind and trying for those qualifying laps. When you're in front, the only way to apply pressure is to go a little bit faster than the guy behind can handle. And a few laps later, that's exactly what happened. I go into that turn about on the limit, the guy behind, he's just that little bit over. From there it was in the bag, and I strolled to the checkered flag to finish up this little iRacing adventure. I'm not really sure what I currently make of iRacing. I love the fixed setup racing. That is why I'm on iRacing now and not still addicted to Gran Turismo 7. You see, when Gran Turismo 7 Go and Make the daily races have open setup, I could no longer tell if I was being beaten by a better driver or a better setup. And I love the selection of tracks in iRacing, and now that those tracks have rain, well, even better. but there's still a lot to hate, like obviously the visuals. There is just nothing about them that holds up in modern times, and you could excuse a lot of this if the performance was amazing, but even though I'm usually getting 80 to 120 frames per second, that is on a 3080, and frankly considering what GT7 does on a PS5 for a similar frame rate, iRacing is far from impressive. And no discussion of iRacing is complete without mentioning the cost. You pay for the subscription, which is just more or less to say you pay to log in. Then you pay for the cars and you pay again for the tracks. And not only that, they don't even upgrade their cars when they get old. They retire them or stick a legacy label on them and no longer offer them to race with. But to iRacing's credit, I have seen credits applied to my account for expired content, so points for that. There's going to be a time when there's a new Laguna Seca with remodeled assets and new high-res textures, and you can buy it for just $19.99. While the old one is now legacy marked and no longer used. They could do that. Of course, they do throw in a few free cars and tracks, but you will soon discover that no matter what series you pick beyond the rookies, you will quickly discover that buying content is going to be a regular occurrence on top of your monthly subscription fee. And finally, we have the staggering of the races themselves. It might seem like there are tons of races and the choice is great, but you often find that you want to focus on just one series at a time, and it can be frustrating when that series is only scheduled for one race per hour. iRacing isn't well suited for a player like me, who doesn't care about pretending everything is real and just wants to cut out the boring bits and get straight to the racing. All in all, I think I'll be playing more iRacing. I don't care about iRacing or licenses or even wins, but I do want to take that 8.6 out in a full field of drivers with spray flying everywhere and cars sliding about. That sounds like my idea of fun. It's got to be the best part of making videos.